I think I speak for everyone when I say that 2020 was honestly a pretty great year. Just think about how many things happened last year. The curse of Grandma Sparkle ended, the real game began, and I did almost 50 different Can You Beat challenges across the same 3 games over and over again. These are Mitten Squad's 10 hardest Why did I crack my knuckle right there? These are Mitten Squad's 10 hardest Can You Beat challenges of 2020. Number 10. Can you beat Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas at the same time? Probably the single greatest idea I've ever had for a video at that point. Since then, I've legitimately gotten lost inside my head at least twice since then. Once was while I was driving. I almost crashed. It took me 20 minutes to book a hotel room because I could barely type. It was a very traumatizing 18 miles. The other time was a couple weeks ago where I convinced myself I was dying. There was no pain, I kinda felt like I was passing on. This is one of them challenges that's absolutely probably possible. It just depends on how bad you want it. Saves reload infinitely, so you just focus on one game and ignore the other while it goes through a somewhat alternating loop of life and death until we eventually decide that character suffered enough, so we let his brother take a turn for a few minutes while the other brother sits there and remembers that we'll be back to him in about 90 seconds for more fun. Or you can do what a perfectly normal person would do and attempt to play them both at the same time. The gameplay of both games is pretty similar, so it's not too difficult to put on your cowboy boots and mount both games at the same time. Number 9. Can you beat Titanfall 2 without entering a Titan? This was a weird one. It's not very often a challenge goes from a normal playthrough to heck in a hand grenade in mere seconds. There are parts of Titanfall 2 where you cannot enter a Titan, parts where a Titan is optional but encouraged, and then there are parts where it's still only encouraged that you enter a Titan, but like the kind where a gun is pointed at your head and they're like, you should probably do it. In those last parts is where the challenge comes from. Unlike the first Titanfall, from what I remember, so I could be wrong, even your anti-Titan weapons aren't that great against enemy Titans. Even with as much ammo as the game will allow you to carry, you're not going to be taking out an enemy Titan by yourself, let alone multiple at once. Your Titan can fight on its own, but you cannot give him orders. He does his own thing and can die while you sit there watching bullet after bullet plow through his metal housing, doing increasingly irreversible amounts of damage. Number 8. Can you beat Super Mario World without running? A challenge difficult only because I decided one was not enough, which is a problem in my life in many ways. Not running wasn't hard enough, so I added 3 more, turning this video into Can you beat Super Mario World without running, without attacking anything, without using any power-ups, and without taking any damage. You're basically taking the gameplay out of the game, or perhaps stripping it down to its base elements of running and jumping. The reason I combined these 4 is because on their own, they would not be that difficult at all. There would be a handful of difficult sections, and the rest of the game isn't hard at all. Putting them all into a single video made sense. Number 7. Can you beat Skyrim with only telekinesis? Of all the videos I've made where I've only been allowed to use a single method of attack throughout the entire game, never, before this one, had I wondered why that weapon was in the game at all. It usually has some place at the beginning of the game, or as something you can fall back on, but not here. Todd Howard, what the f was you thinking, man? What is this shit? Is it a joke? Why is telekinesis in the game? To make it even next to worthless instead of completely fucking pointless, you have to go through this whole pain in the ass ordeal to make alteration spells cost nothing. But at that point, why even bother with telekinesis when you can do other things? If it was like telekinesis in BioShock, it would probably be one of the most fun ways to play Skyrim. Catching arrows out of the air, catching fireballs and out of the air, using a dead bandit against someone as a weapon. A lot of great could have been done with this, but wasn't. Picking a number 6 was difficult, probably the hardest to decide of any of the challenges on this list, but my gut is as distraught as my liver, so I've gotta trust it and go with Can you beat Fallout 3 with only a dart gun. I think a mid-tier spot on this list is fair, considering the run itself was borderline impossible before I decided to cheat. Had I sunken more time into it, I'm sure I could have done it without cheating, without increasing the price of a single dart by like 500% and spawning them into my inventory. It just would have taken a lot longer and would have been less fun. The point is to experience the horrors of making a gimmick weapon your main weapon to see how worthless it really is. Having a single digit amount of ammo at all times could be worthwhile in some games, but in Fallout 3, in this context, it would only make the challenge worse without adding anything beneficial, and putting together the dart gun itself is like a picnic on quicksand. You might think that being quick and efficient will get you out of this ordeal alive, but it will only make it worse. You've got to trek all across the capital wasteland and even the lands beyond to construct the dart gun. Once you get darts, if you're playing on the easiest difficulty, it's a fairly decent weapon. It reminds me a lot of torches in Skyrim. The initial attack doesn't do much, but like the flame from the torch, the dart gun has a lingering poison damage that lasts for 8 seconds. You know what? I'm not even gonna read this. I don't know why I wrote it. It doesn't make any sense. I'll put a screenshot of the subtitles on the screen. Moving on. Number 5. Can you beat Fallout 4 with only a flare gun? The flare gun sucks. It's the least damaging firearm in the entire game. It has no iron sights, making aiming in first person frustrating. There's an arc to the flare you fire, so bullet drop is now something you have to take into consideration. And the reloading time is among the longest of all guns. And because it's not technically a gun, it's not supposed to be something you use in combat. You're supposed to summon allies with it, so it cannot be upgraded and no perks apply to it. It's awful forever, and if you take the combat out of Combat 4, what are you left with? A shitty idea for a challenge that I'm gonna get to eventually, that's what. Number 4. Can you beat Fallout 3 without moving the camera? Despite being one of the most difficult challenges I've ever done, the idea is one of my favorites. The videos that remove a part of the gameplay are always more interesting than those that restrict you to what you can attack with, because those are almost always possible. But challenges like this, and the Super Mario World video, are much more likely to be impossible, which results in frustration and nonsense. And with how broken Fallout 3 is, removing the ability to look around seemed like a match made in a Discord server. No offense to anyone in particular, Josh. Number 3. Can you beat Fallout Brotherhood of Steel without wanting to die? This really could have been number 1 just based on how bad the game is. As far as complexity of gameplay goes, it honestly wouldn't be a stretch to say that it's on par with Kirby Air Ride. In fact, I hate Brotherhood of Steel so much that the rest of number 3 is now about Kirby Air Ride. Think about it. All you need to control Kirby Air Ride is a joystick, a single button, and some way to move the camera. This could easily work as a cellular phone game. Make it $2.99, have challenges to unlock different skins for Kirby and the different vehicles, then add microtransactions for more absurd skins like other Nintendo characters, because some part of this has to be terrible if it's going to be a phone game. City trial, a giant ass map, online multiplayer could be a big moneymaker. Number 2. Can you beat Skyrim as a skeever? Playing as a skeever was as fun as it was awful. When you mess with parts of the game that weren't finished, you're probably gonna have a broken circle jerk of happiness on your hands. It's much more strict than cutting off parts of the game by yourself. Here, if you try to do some of those things in the game, it just crashes. There are finally consequences to having dementia. It's not a get out of jail free card anymore, Josh. So many parts of the game are completely unusable. All forms of magic, accessing your inventory in any kind of convenient way, jumping when you're not in water, attacking doesn't work, blocking doesn't work, moving the camera doesn't work like normal, raising skills, choosing perks, using shouts, probably other things I'm forgetting. Easily one of the worst of all time. Honorable mentions. Can you beat Fallout New Vegas with your feet? In theory, this would be tragic. A bad idea made worse by having oversized big toes, because apparently every single part of me has to be weird. I say in theory because it could have been a lot worse than it was. Speech on its own nearly breaks the game. Stim packs, caps, and a high medicine skill are easy to get before you even hit Prim. DLC packs give you good armor and a grenade launcher to start out with. You don't have to fight anyone. Moving the mouse with your foot does take some getting used to, but because I didn't have some fancy-ass gaming mouse, I was still able to hit every mouse button with little effort. I'd also like to place on here all the challenges I started in 2020 but never finished, or at the very least never turned into a video. One would assume that because they were never finished, they must have been difficult, but it could mean that I finished the playthrough but haven't written the script yet, because usually the more linear the game is, the more time and mental effort it takes to write the script. Or it could mean that I didn't like the challenge after I started it, or it could have just been too hard. Ooh, imagine that. Minecraft with only thorns is a challenge I started in September and didn't get very far in because obtaining thorns, which is an enchantment, when your most recent prolonged experience in Minecraft was becoming ranked 32 in the entire world and distance traveled on easy in Minecraft for the PS Vita in the first 2 weeks after it released, you're probably not properly equipped to handle a Minecraft challenge. That said, if anyone could explain how to no moron in particular how to make any damage in Minecraft kill that moron, that'd be swell. Fallout New Vegas as an impulsive hitman was another challenge, so was Among Us without moving. Fallout New Vegas with only a BB gun, Fallout New Vegas with an army of rad roaches, Fallout 76 without a challenge was too much for me, Halo 1 without taking damage, Wolfenstein The New Order with only a knife, Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated I think was without jumping if I'm remembering correctly. I tried to do a video on Fallout 1 but couldn't even get the game to launch. Dead Space 1 with only a plasma cutter. I bought The Outer Worlds but didn't download it yet. Not sure if that would count as a challenge attempted. I started a Pokemon Leaf Green challenge and stopped in the Water Gym City, but I'm not going to say what that challenge was because I've never seen anyone do it and it's a pretty good idea. There are probably other videos that I've left out, but this part of the video has gone on long enough. Honorable mentions shouldn't be longer than any number on this list, but it keeps getting longer. And finally, number 1. I think you all knew it was coming. If you didn't, I'm honestly surprised that you've possibly managed to make it farther in life than I have, because I should not be alive. The hardest Can You Beat video I made in 2020 was undoubtedly Can You Beat every Wii Sport at the same time. It was a disaster in just about every way. I should not have spent $1,500 on a challenge in the first place. Then I had to set everything up, which was a clusterfuck all on its own. Had to plug everything in just the right way so I didn't blow a fuse in my apartment and ruin the pulled pork I was making by shutting off power to my apartment. I had to keep my furnace off in the dead of a late fall afternoon, so I was mildly inconvenienced by that. And of course, I almost broke my neck on one of the TVs I bought for it. I fell on December 13th or 14th, and it's January 4th, and my lower back still hurts from the fall. Being an adult is fun. Trying to play 5 Wii Sports at the same time when you're the same person who's so bad at basic hand-eye-hand coordination that he lacked the ability to bowl like a normal person is a nightmare beyond mortal comprehension. Editing took forever because I decided to release 2 versions of the video, then they both underperformed, which I should have seen coming. I knew the world wasn't ready for it yet. All in all, it was an abomination, the likes of which I don't expect to experience again until later this year. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Thanks to the champion tier supporters as well as other channel members for making videos like this one possible. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server by going to mitten.land. Follow me on Twitter @Mitten Squad. My name is Josh of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.